As Benjamin Franklin once said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. These words, as relevant today as they were centuries ago, set the stage for our conversation about a powerful tool in the fight for freedom: nullification. Nullification, in essence, is the idea that states can and must refuse to enforce unconstitutional federal laws. It's not about rebellion or anarchy, but rather about maintaining the balance of power, as our founding fathers envisioned. Consider this: our founding fathers were not just politicians, but philosophers, inventors, and above all, defenders of liberty. They understood that freedom was not a gift to be bestowed by governments, but a fundamental right of every individual. They knew that power can corrupt, and so they designed a system of checks and balances to prevent overreach. In this system, nullification plays a crucial role. It is the embodiment of the philosophy that government should serve the people, not the other way around. It is the mechanism that allows us to say, "this far and no further," when faced with the prospect of government overreach. James Madison, the architect of the Constitution, put it best when he wrote in the Federalist Papers, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined." Patrick Henry, another stalwart defender of liberty, echoed these sentiments, declaring, "The Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people, it is an instrument for the people to restrain the government." But the question remains, if nullification is such a powerful tool, why is it not more widely used? The answer lies in the words of Thomas Jefferson, who warned us that the natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and government to gain ground. It is a battle we must continually fight, a balance we must constantly maintain. In the words of Lysander Spooner, the Constitution has either authorized such a government as we have had, or has been powerless to prevent it. The choice, then, lies with us. Will we use the tools at our disposal to defend our freedoms, or will we allow them to be eroded? As Thomas Jefferson stated, "When all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided, and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated." In the wake of this prophetic warning, the concept of nullification was born. The term, as we know it today, was first coined during the impassioned debates surrounding the drafting of the American Constitution. The Founding Fathers, keenly aware of the potential for government overreach, sought a balance of power between the federal and state governments. The Anti-Federalist Papers, a collection of essays penned by those opposed to a strong central government, were instrumental in shaping this discourse. They argued, quite convincingly, that a balance of power was not just beneficial, but absolutely essential to preserving the freedoms of the people. Nullification, then, became a tool for states to push back against federal overreach. In its purest form, it is the idea that any law deemed unconstitutional can be ignored or invalidated by the states. It's a concept rooted in the 10th Amendment, which reserves powers not expressly granted to the federal government for the states or the people. James Madison, often called the father of the Constitution, recognized the importance of state-level resistance. He wrote, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite." Even Benjamin Franklin, known for his wit, had a sobering take on the matter. He said, "Where liberty is, there is my country." And indeed, nullification was about preserving liberty, about keeping the government in check, about ensuring that the power remained where it truly belonged, with the people. In the words of Lysander Spooner, "A man is no less a slave because he is allowed to choose a new master once in a term of years." Nullification was, and still is, a check against this kind of subtle tyranny. As Patrick Henry warned, the Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people, it is an instrument for the people to restrain the government. James Madison once said, "The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined." This sentiment, a beacon of hope for advocates of liberty, has been tested time and again throughout American history. Let's dive into a few instances where nullification was the safeguard of freedom against the tide of unconstitutional laws. Our first stop is the late 18th century, when the Alien and Sedition Acts were passed. These acts, a blatant overreach of federal authority, were met with fierce resistance. The Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, penned by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison respectively, put forth the idea of nullification. Jefferson, in his draft, boldly declared that Every state has a natural right to nullify of their own authority all assumptions of power by others within their limits. Thus, nullification was born as a means to stand against federal tyranny. Fast forward to the mid-19th century, we find another prime example in the form of the Fugitive Slave Act. This act mandated the return of escaped slaves, even from states where slavery was outlawed. It was a gross violation of individual liberty. However, many northern states, in a bid to uphold freedom, passed personal liberty laws effectively nullifying the Fugitive Slave Act. This was nullification in action, a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. Then, we journeyed to the early 20th century during the era of Prohibition. The Volstead Act, enforcing the 18th Amendment, led to a decade of unprecedented government intrusion and rampant lawlessness. Yet, many states, recognizing the Act's constitutional flaws, refused to enforce prohibition at the state level. Once again, nullification served as a check on federal overreach. Interestingly, the concept of nullification isn't confined to the pages of American history. Lysander Spooner, a noted anarchist and abolitionist, argued that individuals had the inherent right to judge the constitutionality of laws. In his words, no man can delegate or give to another any right of arbitrary dominion over himself, for that would be giving himself away as a slave. Spooner's ideas echo the principle of nullification, a tool to preserve individual freedom against arbitrary dominion. Nullification has been a potent tool, a shield against the onslaught of unconstitutional laws. It embodies the spirit of the Anti-Federalist Papers, which cautioned against the dangers of a powerful central government. As Benjamin Franklin famously cautioned, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Nullification, then, is a testament to the resilience and resolve of those committed to liberty. It is a reminder that the powers of the federal government are, as Madison stated, few and defined. It is a declaration that unconstitutional laws will be treated as such and disregarded. As Thomas Jefferson asserted, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." In the face of unconstitutional laws, nullification is that refreshing blood, a revitalizing force for the tree of liberty. In the spirit of our founding fathers, we too must stand against tyranny. As Lysander Spooner put it, "A man is no less a slave because he is allowed to choose a new master once in a term of years." Nullification, the act of disregarding unconstitutional laws, is not a relic of the past, but a beacon for the future. It's a tool that remains as relevant today as it was when Thomas Jefferson and James Madison first proposed it in the late 18th century. In an era where government overreach seems to be the norm rather than the exception, nullification serves as a potent reminder that the power of the people should not be underestimated. In our current political climate, the idea of nullification has gained traction. People across the nation are beginning to question the constitutionality of certain laws and mandates. They are realizing that they do not have to passively accept what they perceive as unjust. They are recognizing that they have the power to resist, to say no, to nullify, and this is exactly what our founding fathers intended. They did not fight a revolution only for their descendants to meekly accept tyranny. They fought for a nation governed by the rule of law, a nation where the rights of the people were paramount. They fought for a nation where nullification was not only possible but encouraged. So how do we apply nullification today and tomorrow? It begins with knowledge. We must educate ourselves on our rights, the Constitution, and the principles upon which our nation was founded. We must understand the power we hold as citizens and the tools at our disposal, nullification being one of them. We must be willing to stand up, to resist, to take action when we see our rights being infringed upon. Remember, nullification is not about rebellion or anarchy. It's about preserving freedom, about standing up for what is right. It's about ensuring that our government remains of the people, by the people, for the people. As Benjamin Franklin wisely noted, freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature. As we have seen, nullification is not just a historical curiosity, but a powerful tool for freedom. Born from the fervor of our founding fathers, this concept has been a cornerstone in our fight against unconstitutional laws. It's been wielded by Patrick Henry, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Lysander Spooner, who understood that the ultimate power lies in the hands of the people, not the government. Nullification was not merely a theory scrawled on parchment but a principle put into action, a testament to our enduring liberty. It has been used time and again to preserve our freedoms, a beacon of resistance against government overreach. In today's world, where the threat of unconstitutional laws looms large, nullification remains as relevant as ever. It serves as a reminder that our rights are inalienable, and that we, the people, have the power to disregard any law that infringes upon them. In the words of James Madison, the power to resist oppression rests upon the right to possess arms. This right is not granted by laws, but is inalienable.